sure it's sent out, man.
I said special.
Yeah.
Only the special. Actually, it's quite amazing. I mean, is that on?
Got the car, got a short line.
Hare Krishna.
Number 4 is there,
Yeah. Yes, it's 4. Yesterday was 3. Today is 4.
Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari. So it's the other tune. So follow the tune. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giridhari, Jaya Giridhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giridhari, Jaya Giridhari. Yashodanandana, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Ranjana. Yamuna Tirvarachari, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Yamuna Tirvarachari, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Yamuna Tirvarachari, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Yamuna Tirvarachari, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Kunja Bihari, Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Here in New Talavana on Friday, February 8th, 2019, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada, Canto 1. It's called The Creation, Chapter 19, the appearance of Shukadeva Goswami. Text number 4. Sachintayam nityamatashrulugyata.
Sachintayam
Mune sutokto niratistakshara. Mune sutokto niratistakshakakyaha.
Mune sutokto niratistakshara.
There's an extra syllable, so in order to make it flow, you gotta say niratistak. You gotta run the niratis and the taksha. Mune sutokto niratistakshakakyaha.
Mune sutokto
niratistakshakakyaha. Sadhu mene nacharena takshaka.
Nasadu mene nachirane takshaka.
Nalam pratakta sivarakti karanam.
Nalam pratakta virakti karanam.
Sachintayani tamatashulodyata.
Sachintayani tam atashunata.
Mune sutokto niratistakshakakyaha.
Mune sutokto niratistatakshakaya.
Nasadu mene nacharena takshaka.
Nasadu mene nachirane takshaka.
Nalam prasakta sivirakti karanam.
Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam.
Sachintayani tamatashulodyata.
Sachintayani tam atashrinodhyatha.
Mune sutokto niratistakshakakyaha.
Mune sutokto niratistatakshaka.
Sasadu mene nacharena takshaka.
Nasadu mene nachirane takshaka.
Nalam prasakta sivirakti karanam.
Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam.
Sachintayanitam atashino yata.
Sachintayanitam atashrinodhyata. Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya.
Sasadu mene nachirena takshaka.
Nasadu mene nachirena takshaka.
Nalam prasaktasya nirakti karanam.
Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam. Sachintayanitam athashnodhyatha. Sachintayanitam athashnodhyatha. Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya. Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya. Sasadu manena chirena takshaka. Nasadu menena chirane takshaka. Nalam prakshaktasya virakta karanam.
Nalam prasaktasya nirakti karanam.
Sachintayanitam athashnodhyatha.
Sachintayanitam atashinoyata.
Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya.
Mune sutokto
Sadhu mene nachirane takshaka.
Sasadu mene nachirena takshaka.
Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam.
Nalam prasaktasya nirakti karanam.
Sachintayanitam atashvinayata.
Sachintayanitam athashrinodyatha.
Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya.
Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya.
Nasadu mene nacharena takshaka.
Nasadu mene nachirane takshaka.
Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam.
Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam.
Ladies?
Sachintayanitam athashrinodyatha. Mune sutokto niratistakakshaya. Sasadu mene nachirena takshaka. Nalam prasaktasya virakti karanam. Chintaya Nitam Atashe Nodyata Mune Sudakto Niratistaka Kaya Sasadu Mene Nachire Natakshaka Naram Prasaktasya Virakti Karanam.
Anyone else? Word for word, synonyms. Saha.
Saha.
He, the king.
He, the king.
Chintayan.
Chintayan.
Thinking.
Thinking.
Itam.
Itam.
Like this.
Like this.
Ata.
Ata.
Now. Ashrinut.
Ashranam.
Heard.
Yata. As.
Mune.
Mune.
Of the sage.
Of the sage.
Sutta.
Sutta Uktaha.
Uttered by the sun.
Uttered by the sun.
Nirikti.
Nirti.
Death.
Death.
Takshaka akaha.
Takshaka.
In relation with the snake bird.
In relation with the snake bird.
Saha.
Sa.
He, the king.
He, the king.
Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Well and good.
Well and good.
Mene.
Mene.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Na.
Not.
Not. Chirena.
Chirena.
Very long time.
Very long time.
Takshaka.
Takshaka.
Snake bird.
Snake bird.
Analam.
Analam.
Fire.
Fire.
Prasaktasya.
Prasaktasya.
For one who was too attached.
For one who is too attached.
Virakti.
Virati.
Indifference.
Indifference.
Karanam.
Karanam.
Cause.
Cause.
Are there still snake birds on planet Earth? Is this part of the species that they study? I never heard of this before the Bhagavatam. Not all the species are always present. Prabhupada would tell us on one, like dinosaurs. So anyway, okay, I never heard of it before Bhagavatam. Anybody ever heard of it?
But was Tatachika, is that a Sanskrit word that means snake bird, or is that referring to the enemy of Arjuna, Tatachika, who was the king of the snakes? And he had real animosity to Arjuna. I don't think he was killed in the battle of Kurukshetra.
So he cursed.
That may have been he may have been the snake bird who Parikshit out of revenge to the Pandavas. So when it says snake bird, it may be some sort of celestial type of bird, snake bird, some being.
Okay.
Well,
Translate.
well, he also is connected into that snake bird. Because when Jamanjaya is trying to kill off this, he intervenes because there's a connection between, I don't remember the exact.
Okay, so unless we can quote chapter verse,
Yeah.
we better leave it alone. Translation. While the king was thus repenting, he received news of his imminent death, which would be due to the bite of a snake bird, occasioned by the curse spoken by the sage's son. The king accepted this as good news, for it would be the cause of his indifference toward worldly things. Please repeat. While the king was thus repenting, he received news of his imminent death,
He received the news of his imminent death,
which would be due to the bite
which could be due to the bite
of a snake bird, occasioned by the curse, spoken by the sage's son. The king accepted this as good news. For it would be the cause of his indifference toward worldly things. Srila Prabhupada's long purport, so let's try to stay with it. Purport. Real happiness is achieved by spiritual existence, or by cessation of the repetition of birth and death. One can stop the repetition of birth and death only by going back to Godhead. In the material world, even by attaining the topmost planet, Brahmalok, one cannot get rid of the conditions of repeated birth and death. But still, we do not accept the path of attaining perfection. The path of perfection frees one from all material attachments, and thus one becomes fit to enter into the spiritual kingdom. Therefore, those who are materially poverty-stricken are better candidates than those who are materially prosperous. Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord and a bona fide candidate for entering the kingdom of God. But even though he was so, his material assets as the emperor of the world were setbacks to perfect attainment of his rightful status as one of the associates of the Lord in the spiritual sky. As a devotee of the Lord, he could understand that the cursing of the Brahmana boy, although unwise, was a blessing upon him, being the cause of detachment from worldly affairs, both political and social. Shamik Muni also, after regretting the incident, conveyed the news to the king as a matter of duty. So it was the sage himself who conveyed that news of the curse in the 7 days. So that the king would be able to prepare himself to go back to Godhead. Shamik Muni sent news to the king that foolish Shringhi, his son, although a powerful Brahmana boy, unfortunately had misused his spiritual power by cursing the king unwarrantedly. The incident of the king's garlanding the Muni was not sufficient cause for being cursed to death. But since there was no way to retract the curse, the king was informed to prepare for death within a week. Both Shamik Muni and the king were self-realized souls. Shamik Muni was a mystic, and Maharaj Parikshit was a devotee. Therefore, there was no difference between them in self-realization. None of them was afraid of meeting death. Maharaj Parikshit could have gone to the Muni to beg his pardon, but the news of imminent death was conveyed to the king with so much regret by the Muni that the king did not want to shame the Muni further by his presence there. Amazing. He didn't want to disturb the Muni. He didn't want to even go there to beg him. He didn't want to counter the curse, but he also had another consideration, that the father was so mortified that his son had done this, that he didn't want to go there personally to beg the Muni because he felt it would make the Muni more uncomfortable and embarrassed.
Amazing.
He did not want to shame the Muni further by his presence there. He decided to prepare himself for his imminent death and find out the way to go back to Godhead. The life of a human being is a chance to prepare oneself to go back to Godhead, or to get rid of the material existence, the repetition of birth and death. Thus, in the system of Varnashram Dharma, every man and woman is trained for this purpose. In other words, the system of Varnashram Dharma is also known as Sanatan Dharma, or the eternal occupation. The system of Varnashram Dharma prepares a man for going back to Godhead. And thus a householder is ordered to go to the forest as vanaprastha to acquire complete knowledge, and then to take sannyas prior to his inevitable death. Parikshit Maharaj was fortunate to get a 7-day notice to meet his inevitable death. But for the common man, there is no definite notice, although death is inevitable for all. Foolish men forget this sure fact of death and neglect the duty of preparing themselves for going back to Godhead. They spoil their lives and animal propensities to eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. Such an irresponsible life is adopted by the people in the age of Kali because of a sinful desire to condemn Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection, for which the state is responsible. The state must employ revenue to advance these 3 items and thus educate the populace to prepare for death. The state which does so is the real welfare state. The state of India should better follow the examples of Maharaj Parikshit. Prabhupada writing this purport in India. He's going to be distributing the first volumes to the Prime Minister. So it's on his mind. India first. The state of India should better follow the examples of Maharaj Parikshit, the ideal executive head, than to imitate other materialistic states which have no idea of the kingdom of Godhead the ultimate goal of human life. Deterioration of the ideals of Indian civilization has brought about the deterioration of civic life, not only in India, but also abroad. Srila Prabhupada? Translation again. While the king was thus repenting, he received news of his imminent death, which would be due to the bite of the snake bird, occasioned by the curse spoken by the sage's son. The king accepted this as good news, for it would be the cause of his indifference toward worldly things. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanam Dashalakshaya Chakshurvitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master is kindly opening my eyes. With the torch of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, another extraordinary response by an extraordinary person. To be responsible, if you look at the word, it means being able to respond appropriately. So, can you imagine if you got the news? Sorry, Suresvara. You got a week to live, but the good news is you'll be in India. So you can pass away in the Dham. At the top of your leap during Guru Puja, you can keep going up and the body will drop. Doesn't get any better than that. What do you think, Suresvara? But we're attached. So, like what did Thomas Aquinas, he said, "Oh Lord," he was making fun of the insincere person who's praying. He said, "Oh Lord, please give me chastity, but not just yet." Yeah. So, Maharaj Parikshit is our hero. So many heroes. That's why Prabhu said, this is the books, this is the history we want to study. Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Ramayana. Of course, we have some education so we can relate and converse with the people, but this is the real history. This is the cyclical history that's always going on. There's a Bhagavatam verse that says, if you want to know what the future holds, just look at what's happened in the past. Just like if you want to know what winter's going to be like, you just look at what happened in the past winter. So there's nothing really mysterious about the material world, because there's nothing new under the sun. All is vanity, and a chasing after wind, and there is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, the narrator. So Maharaj Parikshit's cursed, and then he accepts it as good news. So let's see if we can glean anything more from the translation of the purport. Yeah. As a devotee of the Lord, Prabhupada writes, he, Parikshit, could understand that the cursing of the Brahmana boy, although unwise, was a blessing upon him, being the cause of detachment from worldly affairs, both political and social. So as you folks heard in the last chapter, when the whole thing happened, what's it called? Parikshit cursed by a Brahmin boy. Prabhupada points out in the purport, there's many different factors here involved in this cursing. The time factor, it was time for Kali to come in, so nothing could really stop that. It was the will of the Lord, actually. And the whole thing of misuse of power. So there's an overarching cause here. It's Daiva, it's the will of the Lord. But then within the Leela, we can learn so many relative lessons. So, if we receive some something good, some power, say, just like in one purport in the first canto, Prabhupada writes that because of pious activities in the past, Columbus was credited for discovering America. Although, if you read the history of Columbus now, you find out there's so much, the Europeans, they just really savaged, brutalized the natives wherever they went, whether it's South America or West Indies or Europeans in what's now the United States. So when there's an abuse of power, then there's going to be some consequences. As I said yesterday, Prabhu said, just wait. Nobody gets away with anything. But Parikshit Maharaj, being a pure devotee of the Lord, he went right to the ultimate cause, and he knew that this was a blessing in disguise. Yeah. Okay. So, unwarrantedly, yeah. But it was part of Krishna's plan. Okay, so you can say it wasn't Shringi's fault, but no, everybody in the Leela still has to accept the consequences of what they do. So, as the saying goes, we should not, we should not resent the agent of our karma. If it was my karma to receive some unfortunate consequence, then I shouldn't resent the person who pulled the trigger or who did whatever to me. As I was on a mountain in South India. Vipuja. We discovered we were on the same mountain in South India. So it was a remote project. So Apatapa Prabhu, my godbrother from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, he's an interesting person. He was a mystic sidekick of Satya Sai Baba before he joined Prabhupada. When you see him on the memories, he's telling how he joined. And because he had powers to control people's minds, when he met Prabhupada, he tried to use his powers on Prabhupada. And instead of him controlling Prabhupada's mind, everything Prabhupada was lecturing, and everything Prabhupada said was answering something that he was thinking. So Prabhupada was answering his mind. Countering it, taking him a step higher. So anyway, so Amatattva and I were on this mountain, and so we're talking about fate and Sade Sati, the movement of Saturn over your moon, how it roughly corresponds to adolescence and midlife crisis, and then finally death, and all these things. That's overgeneralization. But anyway, so he was talking about Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu, which Prabhupada says in 7th Canto, 7.4, I think it's 35, that when Hiranyakashipu was torturing his son Prahlad, but nothing could touch him. So externally there was Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu were going on there. And so Prabhupada says in the purport, it is said that when one is under the influence of Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu, one cannot make any progress in life, either material or spiritual. But in the verse it said, Krishna Graha, Graha planet, Krishna Graha Grahitatma. Because Prahlad Maharaj was protected, he was under the influence of the Krishna planet, Krishna Graha. He was super Krishna conscious. Nothing could touch him. And then Atmatattva Prabhu was saying, it's not that when misfortune befalls us, that it's because of Saturn, Rahu, or Ketu. It's not because of the planets. Because we've already done whatever we've done. Karya karana kartrutve hetu prakriti uchate. Purusha sukha dukkha nam bhoktrutve hetu uchate. Nature is, this is Krishna in Gita 13:21. Nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, whereas the living entity, Purusha, is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. We are responsible for how we desire and what those desires bring. So Amatattva put it, I never heard this said like this. He said, no, it's not, Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu, they're simply delivering the bill. They're coming to you, and the bill is coming due by the time factor, and they're just, when they give you the bill in a restaurant. So, before, Shakespeare said it too. Shakespeare was pretty hip. He said, who said this to Brutus? Was it Julius Caesar? Anyway, the famous line is, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves." Pretty good, huh? I don't know where he stood theologically, Shakespeare, but he had some good insights. So let's go back. Okay, so this is really amazing. This is simply, this is the Tikshava Karmaka. Maharaj Parikshit could have gone to the Muni to beg his pardon, but the news of imminent death was conveyed to the king with so much regret by the Muni. You can see, my son cursed you, and it's coming due in a week, and I'm so sorry. And so the king could have, thought about it and went, I'm going to go back to this guy and hey, wait a minute, let's counteract this. But he didn't do that. And even more for the Muni's benefit, that the king did not want to shame the Muni further by his presence there. He didn't want to go back and keep the Muni in that embarrassed space, mortified space. He decided to prepare himself for his imminent death and find out the way, the road back to God. And the way, of course, revealed itself when Shukadeva Goswami, which is the appearance of Shukadeva, walked in, stark naked, but totally, everybody, Vyas was there, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, and they immediately sat down. Okay, we want to hear from him. He knows what's going on. So, okay. And then Prabhupada zooms out from the Leela and he just starts talking, philosophically more. The life of a human being is a chance to prepare oneself to go back to Godhead or to get rid of the material existence, the repetition of birth and death. Thus, in the system of Varnashram Dharma, this is Daiva Varnashram, not ordinary Varnashram. There's a big difference. Big difference. One is really in the bodily concept of life, and it's just for trying to have a good time in the material world, Vedically. Right? If you want to enjoy, there's nothing like going to the Vedas. If you want that too. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery language of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. These are all things that keep us here. Being attached to sense gratification and opulent life, the Veda Vadaratis, they say there's nothing more than this. Hey, go to the Vedas if you want to enjoy it. But that's the desire tree of the Vedas. But just when you go to a tree, this is mentioned later in the 15th chapter. That was the second chapter reference. The 15th chapter, it says, Urdvamula manukshakam ashvatam prahur avyayam. There is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down. So right now, we can look at this. Look at this. It's winter. Winter's good. It's suffering because of the cold, but then you start to see things more as it is, because a lot of the trees are just stripped of their pretty leaves, and you can see the real life of the tree. You're going to stand there in all kinds of, weather, and of course that's why they're outfitted with these dull bodies, so they don't feel it like we do. We feel so much. But it's not a happy life. It's unadorned. It's stark now. It's stark. And you can see the material world more for what is. So it's good, because then it forces us to ask why. Right? Why is it there? I don't want to be here, this place. Getting old, getting sick, dying. So Prabhupada's making this point now, that Parikshit Maharaj, he's responding, he's responsible, he's able to respond in an appropriate way, in the most appropriate way. Maharaj Parikshit was fortunate to get a 7-day notice to meet his inevitable death. I sometimes think that's why when devotees pass away, have you noticed how so often it's because of cancer? Because there's notice. Sometimes there's accidents too, right? We hear that. But yeah, the devotees are put on notice. And then even if they pull through it, they're still on notice. I mean, we're all on notice, but it's a reminder of our mortality. Yeah. So I just went through a bout with prostate cancer, and now I'm feeling better than I have in years. But it's a reminder. And that's what the doctors and the astrologers said. You got about 10 more years. 10 years? What's that? The last 20 years just went by in a flash. I only got 10 left. I gotta do something. I gotta finish strong here. I'm coming into the home stretch. Okay, but for the common man there is no definite notice, although death is inevitable for all. So how does the non-devotee, how does the materialist think of death? It's right in the corner there. Madhava Priya's down here. What did she paint in one corner of that painting? You saw the notice man.
No, he's in all four corners, I'm pretty sure.
Is he?
Yeah. The death with the side?
Yeah, what do they call him in the West?
Oh, the Grim Reaper.
The Grim Reaper. They don't see it as a friend. This is the end of the party. The party's over. Here comes the guy with the scythe and the cowl and the skeleton, and wow. But Maharaj Parikshit, hey, make my day, make my day. Or like Dhruva, right, when it finally came, death was approaching Dhruva Maharaj, and what did he do?
Stepped on its head.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. Nice to see you. Could you put your head right there so I can just... It's an opportunity, as they say nowadays. Be mindful of the opportunities. Yeah, so here comes death. Take that as an opportunity, just the ultimate opportunity. When William Blake, the mystic British poet, was passing away, his dear wife was asking him what, because she could see her husband was withdrawing and going to another place. And, oh William, what is happening? Where are you going? So Blake, being pretty far out and transcendental in his own way, he had intimations of transcendence. Oh, I'm just stepping into another room, dear. Worry not. Yeah. Okay, so, but for the common man, there is no definite notice, although death is inevitable for all. Boy, I just had a flash of traveling Sankirtan, 1970, probably 4 or 5, working in Gainesville, Florida, morning job at the KOA campgrounds, and so this is next in the lot next to ours. There was this big Winnebago, the whole family was there. And the night before, they were all doing the cookout. Unfortunately, these horrible smells of meat and everything. Just enjoying life. The next morning, we're all circumambulating the campground, chanting japa in the wee hours before it gets too light, and it's harder to focus because everybody's waking up. So just as dawn is breaking, the patriarch of the family, who was really the most drunken one the night before and the most meat-eating, all of a sudden he starts screaming. He's having a heart attack. We learn later. And he's calling for his family members, right? All the fallible soldiers. Oh, Daddy, what's happening, Daddy? Yeah. Enjoying the night before, and then the karma's coming through. He doesn't know what's happening. And to call the ambulance and they take him away. I don't know what happened to the fellow, but yeah. Like a thief in the night, right? That's what they say. Foolish men forget this sure fact of death and neglect the duty of preparing themselves for going back to Godhead. They spoil their lives in animal propensities to eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. Yeah, the human life is specifically meant for God realization. Every other species, they can do things better than we can. The vultures can see better than we can, and the dogs run free. What did they say? They even said it. The dogs run free. Why can't we? Yeah, right?
Dylan.
And what? Dogs can hear hear stuff we can't, and what else? Oh, they smell. Yeah, they got good senses. Yeah, and walking on Talavana Beach Park in Honolulu, morning walks. Prabhupada famously said, you say surfers, because he was seeing them. I say sufferers. Because Prabhupada made it clear to them, to the devotees, if you want to just surf the waves, there are much better bodies, the porpoises and the dolphins. They're the ultimate surfers. But you're forfeiting your human form of life. This body is meant for graduating, for transcending the whole cycle. So, but the values are so dull, dense, that one just doesn't get it. Such an irresponsible life is adopted by the people in the age of Kali because of a sinful desire to condemn Brahminical culture. That's why Prabhupada would spin that word ignorance. How do you say it? Ignorance. We think of ignorance as being passive. Oh, I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse, young man. Here's your fine. So in the state of the Lord, ignorance is no excuse. And so Prabhupada would say ignorance. It's a willful, conscious act. It's a conscious, it's deliberate in the human form. So everybody's responsible for what they do. Condemn. The sinful desire to condemn Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection, for which the state is responsible. So the state is supposed to promote those values. So, for example, what is their idea in the federal, at the highest levels of government, of sex education, for example? What's their sex education boiled down to? What do they say? You know?
How to run free like the dogs.
Yeah, but more specifically in terms of recommendations.
They give you stuff.
What?
They give you these things.
Yeah, they give you devices so there's no conception. And even the will of providence sometimes fools them. It doesn't work. Right? Yeah, just protect yourself. Protect your sex, guys. Be smart. Be smart. And then if somebody comes along with the whole, there was a book, I think maybe it's still around, it's called Abstinence or something, and they propose, very, very, very often the evangelicals say this to their credit, and then it's considered weird, right? What are they talking about? These people are just hung up. So anyway, but what is the sex education from Lord Vishante? Thinking of a famous verse, Lord Vishante. Guru na sasya, pita na sasya. First, the guru. Don't become a guru. Don't become a father. Don't become a mother. Is nurse in there? No. Don't become anybody. Don't take on any role of being a leader or a guardian. Yes. I want you to become a father, a mother, a spiritual master, unless you can deliver your dependents from birth and death. Prabhupada called that spiritual contraception. Otherwise, Prabhupada said, the dogs are also becoming fathers and mothers, but such father and mother becoming is not very good, Prabhupada would say. So if you just try to preach straight like that to somebody nowadays, where sex is considered like a contact sport, it's like you forgot the whole purpose of it. First you have to step back and remind them of what that energy is for. What's it all about? It's divine. Krishna says, Kamosmi. Dharma vibhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. It's actually divine. It's to bring souls into the world, to raise them, to free them from birth and death. Not a contact sport where you just perpetuate the cycle. I was in Pittsburgh at the time we met each other, 72. Prabhupada came to the temple because he had just finished, was it before Bhagavatam? I think it was after Bhagavatam discourse in New Vrindavan. Pittsburgh being the nearest city to New Vrindavan. And so, across the street from the temple in Shadyside and Ellsworth Avenue, there was a Greek Orthodox bishop. Remember that?
Yeah, it had the same building. The same architect or something. One was the mayor's and one was the bishop's.
Yeah, it was pretty. And the temple was nice.
It was
another
beautiful.
one of those they should have had sold.
It was, it was beautiful.
Yeah. So we told the bishop that our spiritual master's coming to town, and he wanted to meet Prabhupada because we kept talking about it. And we thought, I'd like to meet your spiritual master. So I'm just trying to think. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to lose the thread here. So this is a classic. So Prabhupada arrives there. Rupanuga Prabhu was leading. Maybe it was Maharaj. I think he was in 72. Yeah, in May he had taken sannyas. So Rupanuga Maharaj leads Prabhupada across the street with a band of devotees. And I wasn't there, but they told me right after what happened. So Prabhupada sits in the bishop's little parlor, very nice. They all sit down, like a tea parlor or something. And Prabhupada didn't. He just came in guns blazing. He sits down and he said, Jesus Christ said, "Thou shalt not kill," while the Christian world simply killing. And then there was the whole thing about the soul and the body, and the bishop was very nice. That's what the devotee said. He didn't try to fight him, or not like Cardinal Danilou in Paris. And then Prabhupada also said, an ordinary man can have so many children, so many sons. Why Jesus Christ is the only Son of God? But the bishop wanted to hear, so that was his qualification. It was nice. Anyway, when Prabhupada addressed us in this, in the temple room, I was sitting kind of like, say, Prabhupada speaking, and I was sitting, let's see, to Prabhupada's right. So I was sitting right here. So I was seeing Prabhupada's profile, just as like that. And so Prabhupada was talking about the horrors of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is so bad. Even in the womb, Prabhupada took his hand like this. They are coming after you with an eye. Even in the womb. And when he said, even in the womb, his eyes bulged out of his sockets. It was amazing. It was like he was right there, having compassion for the unborn child. Yeah. So it's getting late. And as ever, on the day of travel, it's always a whirlwind. But maybe if you have any questions or comments, I'll read the verse again. While the king was thus repenting, he received news of his imminent death, which would be due to the bite of a snake bird. Takshaka, that's twice in the Sanskrit, Takshaka. Occasioned by the curse spoken by the sage's son, the king accepted this as good news, for what would be the cause of his indifference toward worldly things. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Well, in the very beginning, there was a few things, the first thing in the very beginning you mentioned about, in India, the government of India, and that the first cantos will be distributed there in India.
Yeah.
In the previous chapter, though, Prabhupada referenced
China?
how the people, by the people, for the people. Which I found was sort of like literature, it's like a foreshadowing.
What was the context? What was he saying?
You read that report, right, Yogendra?
Mm-hmm. He was condemning democracy? Or?
No. I don't remember exact content, but the point was that, for me, the takeaway was that he knew he needed to go to the West. He's in India at the time. Where in the West he would end up, he didn't know, but he was already referencing our Constitution. It was like he was preaching to us. It was a foreshadowing of things to come.
Yeah, Prabhupada, that was part of his preparation. When he was doing his Back to God, he was very much aware that because materialism doesn't work, that the youth in every materialistic country were becoming a big thorn in the side of the elders, because the spiritual goal of life was being neglected, and they had so much facility for material enjoyment, but they weren't satisfied. So you think of the 50s when I was growing up. You had James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, right? Elvis Presley coming in. This is just like, or Howl. How about Howl by Allen Ginsberg? First spoken at the City of Lights bookstore in San Francisco. The first poetry reading. It was like a manifesto of the Beat Generation and how America's lost its soul. They won the war, and then they just went full on into materialism, and now where's spirit anymore? It's just a corporate rat race, manipulated by the hidden persuaders, the advertising men. That's what the Brahmins, they were recruited from the Ivy League, all these intellectuals, to just control people's minds through advertising. That's what my father was. He was good. He wanted me to follow in his footsteps. He was really unhappy when I joined the Hare Krishna movement. But then he became fortunate. He became favorable. So anyway, your point...
Who was that, your father?
Yeah, my father. He was one of those guys on 42nd Street, Madison Avenue. So, what were you saying?
Well, no, just that.
Yeah, anticipating. Yeah, and therefore he came to New York. He didn't go to London, as we heard Prabhupada say in the recording presented. But the action had moved from London to New York. And then the energy went back to London. That's why he sent his devotees, those couples. Yeah. So first it was New York, then it was San Francisco, then it went to London. I mean, Prabhupada was right on top of it. He was always in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So also if we when you're talking about when the bill is due, so in other words, we have to accept that this is can't push blame to somewhere else. But
Right.
so then, if you get something good like an inheritance, you owe it to me. There's no gratitude.
What's that?
You-
Oh,
well,
Krishna owes it to me?
Well, I did something good. Now I should get this inheritance.
Well, that's just karma.
That's just karma.
That's just karma. But if we're trying to be devotees, if we're smart, we use that for
Yeah.
Krishna, and we won't. Just like Ambarish, I told you, Ambarish said to me one day in Rampur, Suresvara, if I have to come back to this world, I don't want to be, born with a silver spoon in my mouth again. Because it's a relationship hell. Everybody's always just trying to get your money. They don't care about you really, although they're pretending. So he doesn't want to have to be... Everybody's chasing money in the world, right? So he's got the money. So you can imagine what a hell that is. He's got what everybody else has, but without Krishna, it's this hell. You're just hunted, stalked by the whole world for your money. So there's no such thing as happiness in the material world. Even if you have it all, without Krishna you have nothing.
You don't know who to trust.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, so it's only, without Krishna, nothing works.
And there's a lot of things you brought up. Unfortunately, my brain is so dull, I can't think of them right now.
Well, when I don't prepare a class, I tend to I'm kind of like a Gatling gun. It's a sort of scattershot.
It was a good Gatling gun.
But I tend to just, superficially touch on things. And a good class really is focused on one thing, and just everything, all the examples and the analogies sort of enhance that one point. Because you're right. We can't remember so many things. So we just have to come away with some realization on. Theoretically, I might have heard it a million times, but now, wow, now I really understand that point. So.
And as you referenced the 50s, the point of the fact that in those days, abortion was just, you know, this was not, you couldn't even possibly consider that this was actually going to be, we would get to this point. But I say, first of all, it's progressing worse because now they've just recently passed a law in New York where it goes to the trimester.
Mm-hmm.
But the other, and even there was some discussion about within 24 hours after the birth. So where does it end? So, but the thing is that with all this thing called #MeToo, you see that and this constant discussion, because it shows that feminism didn't end harassment or abuse or exploitation. By giving women the opportunity to, you know, have a career and so on, putting emphasis on that. The harassment is still there, maybe worse. And you see that actually, to me, it seems as if there's just people's past behavior, which was considered the norm 10, 20, 30 years ago, is now coming back to smack them in the face. And now they're being judged on activities that were the norm then, or now people are considering this kind of behavior, this kind of sexual innuendo or aggressive attempts to attract someone is absolutely not, is foreboding. Which actually, I find that's like a symptom of our pure Krishna consciousness purifying the atmosphere.
Yeah, or like people becoming conscious more of what they eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Prabhupada would say, you know, because of the interest in vegetarianism, because of the interest in yoga, like that those were symptoms that the Hare Krishna movement was purifying the atmosphere.
Or like when the first Indian yogi came to the West, Vivekananda, however bogus, that's, just lost my train of thought.
I know that you...
Oh, that's when Prabhupada was born. 1896. 1893 was the Chicago World Parliament of Religions. Yeah, you can see Krishna's...
But you mentioned that in the following Prabhupada, I remember this now, that you mentioned that you saw Prabhupada pay obeisances there. It was at a Rath Yatra.
That was in Chicago.
And you were wondering, you know, what would
Prabhupada say?
Yeah. That was very nice.
Yeah, he did say, he said in the Vedanta Sutra, it said, he was coming to set the record straight. Janmadhyasya, the absolute truth is that from whom? He even said more, usually it says which, is that which, but he personalized it more. From whom everything emanates, just like in Gita 8:9. One should meditate upon the Supreme Personhood, the one who knows everything, etc., etc., etc. And then Prabhupada adds in the translation, and who was always a person. It's not in the Sanskrit, but all the Sanskrit words in the verse point to a person. He's got form, qualities, pastimes, name. So Prabhupada, just in case we didn't get it, and who was always a person. Hey, we better go. I got more packing to do. So thank you for your Sangha, and Lord willing, I will be here 1 month from tomorrow, on March 9.
You're coming back with all the wealth from India, the East?
The wealth of what I hear, I'm going to hear. And to give Yogi back his wife's suitcase. Is that your wife's suitcase? It's red.
Just some suitcase somebody gave me.
Some suitcase. Jesse held me duct tape. Only it's better than duct tape. It's T-Rex tape. It's really strong. So hopefully I'll make it. Srila Prabhupada.